Hey, Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jason. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Steve Phipps, and my agency is Wayfind Marketing, and we work with service-based B2B companies with strategies, websites, and content.
Awesome. And how'd you get into this fun life?
I would say it was sort of by accident. I worked for an agency back in 2011. I've been the digital marketing manager for a company in a different industry, was laid off from there, and ended up going to work for an agency here in the Memphis, Tennessee area. Quickly moved up to the VP role, so the number two role in that agency. And really, Jason, I thought I was going to be there for the majority of my career until the owner unexpectedly passed away due to he had a freak kayaking accident the summer of 2014. And so just the way things went from there, at one point I thought there would be an opportunity to buy that agency, and that fell through. And so at that point, stepped out on my own in February of 15 to launch Wayfind Marketing. That's how we got started.
Cool. And what's your guys' goal in the agency? And has that changed since the very beginning when you started?
Really at the heart of what we do is strategy. And when I started out, and it was just me, I started out primarily offering fractional CMO services. I love strategy. If you look at the Strengths Finders assessment, strategy and ideation are some of my top strengths. And so I love getting to help clients take a mishmash of marketing and make sense of it and give them something cohesive and comprehensive that's going to work together to help drive traffic and leads. And so that was the original focus of that CMO role. And as we have grown as a company and become a full service agency, strategy is still the cornerstone of what we do.
What's the end goal? Is there an end goal that you had when you started versus now?
Yeah. So high level, we want to simplify marketing and make it easier for companies that are trying to grow and scale. And the way that we position ourselves is we're looking to partner with companies that are looking to grow for the long run, not just the quick wins. I know quick wins are important, but we're really interested in companies that have done frameworks like EOS and understand the value of long-term growth and building the systems and leveraging frameworks that are going to work, but they take time. But in the long run, that's going to generate more profitable growth for them.
What's your guys' biggest challenge right now?
The challenge right now is our scaling up. We're at that threshold where I still end up being a bottleneck. And so it's the process of reworking some of our processes and systems outside of me to where I don't end up being the bottleneck, where I don't have to be involved in making the decisions and so that I can focus on the areas where I'm strongest and let my team and future team members focus on areas where they are the strongest.
Give us an example of where you're the bottleneck. I think this will help out a
Yeah.
lot of people because they'll be like, yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I'll give you a good example. When our first phase of work with most clients is a strategy development process, a lot of moving pieces, typically 6 to 8 weeks. And because I'm the one who developed this and I know this best, there are pieces of that process that I've handed off to other people on my team, but there's still too much of it that I do just naturally. I know where to look, I know where to get the information, how to interpret it. And so we did two strategy sessions on Friday. And I ended up, I was up at 3 a.m. finishing out the decks for these meetings because I've not given that training, the equipping that some of my other team members need so that they can be doing it instead of me. And so we got it done. The clients were happy with what we did, but I don't like having to get up at 3 a.m. to try to finish out the strategy decks.
Yeah, you think about when we set out to create our agencies, we had in freedom, picking and choosing to doing the things we love. And, for a while, we've designed this business where it's kind of imprisoned us. So have you thought about or Are you recording like videos of you actually going through and doing the things that you're having to do right now?
Not yet. Not yet. And it was as I was thinking through and putting these decks together. And actually I was listening to one of your recent podcasts, and I'm going through your agency playbook right now and looking at those kinds of things. That I need to be recording and getting this information, this knowledge out of my head. So that way somebody else can come back and they can watch it and they can do it. And okay, go here, get this information. Go here, get this, put it here. Here's how I'm interpreting this.
The other thing that I tell people too a lot of times is think of your framework, right? So
Mhm.
when we bring on people on our team, our framework for scaling an agency is around attract, convert, and scale. So you have the option to sell one day, right?
Hmm.
And so for the longest time, I was like, well, man, I always got to do the sales. I always got to do the strategy calls. And you have to answer this question is why? Why do I have to do this? And it's because I or you have all the stories in our head, the mental Rolodex. So if you can start coming up with a process, and it really starts with recording videos, but then the other process is recording the stories based on your framework. So then your team can figure that out. But then even if you go a step before all of that, it really comes down to where is the agency actually going? Why do we exist? Right. So another short story, when Stacy came working with me 10 or 9 years ago, we're almost on 10 years. Don't tell
Hmm.
her. She made me.
I won't. I won't.
But when she started working with me, I literally had her writing content and all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that she wrote, I remember very vividly. She wrote, here are the top 20 conferences for agency owners to go to. And she listed about three of them. I was like, no, absolutely not. I don't like those guys. And she goes to me, she goes, why? Was it because they didn't ask you to speak on their stage? And I'm like, yes. And then and then she goes, what's our North Star, Jason? And I said, to be a resource I wish I had when I was running the first agency. And she goes, is this a resource that's good for the agency? I said, yep. So I gave her the power because I told her where we're going. I gave her the power to make a decision and to hold me accountable, which a lot of times we're full of shit if you think about it.
Yeah. 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 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that clear North Star. I mean, that's just super simple. It's not long and wordy, and it's just something that everybody can hold to and use that to give the clarity of, is this something we should do or not?
Yeah. And then you think about your framework, right? And then the stories that gives them another added layer. And then you think about the third layer is just recording you doing something that you never want to do ever again. That's
Yeah.
the third layer. That's the final layer in order to hand it over to someone. Because I always looked at, scaling an agency and really going to the next level. You got to really think it's where, who, and who. Where am I going? Who do I need to hire to figure out the how? You and I don't need to figure out the how. And then who do we need to become? And a lot of times, if you ask yourself, I was chatting with a young woman the other day. She sold her agency to someone that was on the podcast. I won't say. She did really well. And I said, why'd you sell? Because she told me kind of her revenue. She was well under the million in EBITDA, which, your valuation is going to just get hacked. I was like, why'd you sell? She goes, well, she gave me the good PR answer. Well, it was a good opportunity. I saw the synergies together. I'm like, we're not recording right now, so you can really tell me the real answer. She wanted.
Right.
And so then I asked her the question. I said, do you feel that the agency reached a plateau? And do you feel that you were holding the agency back? And she goes, yes. And I go, if you figured out how to take yourself up another level, like help yourself, would you have kept it? And she goes, yes.
Mhm.
Right. And I think a lot of us listening, I've been through it. I go through it still. I'm like, I'll sell the fucker. And then I'm like, no, I can become a little bit better. And then I'm like, ooh, I got some more growth. And then
Yeah.
I hire other people and then they bring me up too. It's a lot of fun.
Well, so two things that you just pointed out that really resonate. One is as far as getting things off of my plate, that distinction of the stories, because you're absolutely right. When I'm in a conversation with a client, I'm very comfortable bringing up stories out of my experience of 20 plus years of business ownership and other things. They're just second nature, just in the context, and making that distinction of those stories is clutch, because you're absolutely right. I've got the same stories that I use over and over, and I just need to be cognizant of pulling those out separately. And I haven't thought about that. Just simple, but it's so enmeshed with what I do that's really helpful. And the other thing about as we grow, so I'm in Vistage, and we had a speaker recently who was talking about the different life cycles of a company. And as you move from one stage to the next, the requirements that change based on what's happening at that level. I mean, I know I've been hitting that, and I've been working with my coach and trying to process through what do I need to do so that I get out of the way. And what you were just saying a minute ago too, it's the first who, who do I need to bring on and let them go figure it out. And it's caught me, Jason, as to how challenging that is to let go of that. Like in theory, I could tell you, you know what? Yeah, I've got to step back and let go of that. But it's been more challenging than I thought.
Hey, agency owners, if you're sticking with one platform for every project, you're probably stuck in a growth bottleneck. More clients means more hires, which adds noise and cuts into profits. To break the loop, you need a more flexible tool that doesn't stretch your resources. Now, Wix Studio is a smart addition to your agency's toolkit. Intuitive by design, your team can quickly master the platform and focus on the work that matters the most. Now, with robust native business solutions like booking, e-com, and events, you can take on any project at any scale without adding cost to third-party plugins. Plus, Wix Studio is a low-maintenance platform, meaning you can redirect client budget toward real growth initiatives. Think more value for your clients, steady income stream, and stronger relationships. Scale your agency at wixstudio.com. Think about it doing it in stages. Think about, I don't know your framework or your process, but let's say there's two stages. One stage is, and I'll walk you through ours, right? So Darby, our agency scale specialist, when he started working with us, he didn't even know what an agency was. And he was brought to us by Ian, who they're best friends. So he didn't even know what an agency was. But he understood how to relate to people. He understood how to manage sales and that kind of stuff. Now, I wasn't looking for a salesperson. I was looking for consultation and someone that has the ability to learn. And he's one of the brightest people and just amazing. And if you guys can get on do an agency blueprint with them, if you guys are listening, it's well worth it. It's amazing. But we started out, I used to do all the blueprints. I would do all the strategies, and then I would do the next level. And so I said, well, let's think about the first call. What are the key questions? What are the key stories? What are we trying to extract out? And so we did that. Now I did that with him. So at first I did it. He shadowed. Then the next phase was he did it. I was still there as a backup, add color. Then once he mastered that, which was like in a week, and I kept it simple because I had a framework to follow, and I shared stories with him along the way. Then the next part was he would shadow me on the blueprint. Then he would lead the blueprint and I would shadow him. And then he just does it all himself. Right. And then, just immerse him in the business, he or she in the business. So, those are the steps that we need to think and put people through and know that they're going to fail, but they're going to fail quick. Let them fall down and go, what'd you learn? Like, One of the things too that might help a lot of you all listening out is have them record the calls. And then, so I got my pilot's license maybe 6 months ago. Every time I fly and every time, learning up, we would always have a debrief, which is very important. You want to go, hey, I almost killed myself. I need to figure out why, so I don't do that again. Right? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
risk tolerance is very low, or the safety. So I would always tell him, each week, send me your best call and your worst call. I want you to debrief yourself. And then why? Why was this your best? Why was this your worst? And then we could talk about it. And then they could learn quick versus, having to have me on all the calls or review all the calls. I've even had people take it a step further and have AI go through the transcription
Mm,
and
yeah.
like debrief you that way too. So
I love that idea of, and I've heard that, it's the funny thing is sometimes I hear things and I know the things that I need to do, but either one, I forget, other things get in the way. And so, I mean, and that's, I just went through the agency blueprint with Darby about 2 weeks ago. So that's fresh, top of mind, and everything you just said, great experience working with him in that. And he, using y'all's framework, brought up several things for me to be working on. And
yep,
and this what we're talking about right here was one of those things. In fact, it was in that call that through the questions that he was asking, it helped me get clarity around one of the big things internally that we need to do. And I'm working with somebody else on my team to help
yep,
figure out how are we doing project management.
yep,
We've got processes and we built it out in ClickUp, but the actual project management skills is really just kind of how each of us individually has approached it.
yeah. And you got to make sure you got the people in the right seat too. Like you mentioned project management, right? A lot of times
Yep.
we put, and I've done this where I'll be like, oh, you understand the process. You were my designer. You probably could lead other designers. And I'm like, holy shit. Most designers are like, I'm a designer. I see in pretty colors and rainbows. But if it's process I have to follow and step
Yeah.
by step, like I'm going to be bored. Or if I have to manage someone, like, hell no. Right. And that's another thing too, right? Like as you're scaling your business, are you hiring people that you have to manage or do they manage themselves? Because as owners, we suck at managers for the most part.
Yeah.
90% of agency owners I meet, horrible managers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 100% in that 90%. And that's where you're getting language around from EOS on visionary and
Yep.
integrator. I'm 100% a visionary and I can do the details. But man, that drains me.
Yeah, but we're forced to, and uh,
Yeah.
we can do anything we put our mind to, but like if we don't have the full brain power to do, someone else could do it way better. And that's the thing too. I tell people is like, look, make a list. Like, you're going through the playbook, right? Like in the clarity system, the system one, I talk about like putting your fist on a sheet of paper, drawing a circle around it and write down all the stuff outside the circle that you hate doing and spend about 30 minutes doing it. And then inside the circle, what's all the stuff you love doing?
I've,
And then,
I've got that piece of paper on
yeah,
my desk because I watched that master class
yeah,
probably about a month ago. And yeah, I've been doing that. And that's just simple, but man, that's powerful.
yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Steve. Thanks for being transparent and open up with us. And that's why I love doing the podcast is like, you never know where the conversation's going to go.
Yeah.
And when you get guests like yourself on and just be like, yeah, like, cause dude, I have so many issues. Like you just got to tackle one at a time. And that's the fun part. Like, that's why I always hate social media when people post all the good stuff. What about the bad stuff? And
Let's pull back the facade and talk real life.
exactly. So, well, thanks so much for coming on the show. And for all of you guys listening, I give you guys access to the agency playbook now for the first three systems, which are the foundational systems that we talked about, because too many people are focusing on prospecting and sales, but you don't have the right foundation. I don't care what level you're at. you could be at 10 million and still be struggling with the foundation. So for the agency playbook, if you go to swank.com, SWENK, you can request access to get access to the first three systems. That's my gift to you guys for listening. So go check that out. And until next time, have a swank day.